In the world of Westeros, there is a saying that all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes. But the truth goes much deeper than that. When you look at the massive story of Game of Thrones and the A Song of Ice and Fire books, you notice a recurring pattern that defines the fate of the entire world. The people who actually end up holding the power, changing the tide of wars, and surviving the most impossible odds aren't the perfect knights in shining armor or the highborn lords who have everything handed to them. Instead, the story belongs to the outcasts. George R.R. Martin didn't just write a story about kings and queens. He wrote a story about the people who exist on the fringes of society and how their unique perspectives allow them to rule when everyone else fails. Think about the very first book and the first season of the show. We are introduced to the Starks, a family of high honor and prestige. But even within that family, the emotional center of the story quickly shifts to Jon Snow and Tyrion Lannister. These two characters represent the core of the outcast theme. Jon is a bastard who has no name, no inheritance, and no future within the walls of Winterfell. Tyrion is a dwarf born into the wealthiest family in the world, yet he is treated with more contempt than the common peasantry because he doesn't fit the image of a Lannister lion. What makes these characters so effective is that they are forced to develop skills that the highborn lords never bother with. The title of our discussion today is The Bastard's Blade, because in Westeros, the sharpest weapon isn't made of Valyrian steel, but of the experiences gained by those who have been cast aside. When Jon Snow arrives at the Wall, he expects to find a brotherhood of noble warriors. Instead, he finds a group of rapists, thieves, and unwanted sons. He realizes that the Night's Watch is the ultimate collection of the realm's outcasts. In the books, Jon's transition from a resentful boy to a leader is much more detailed. He has to learn that his status as a noble bastard still puts him higher than most of the men there who were born in the gutters. Jon is able to unite people that the lords of the South would simply ignore. He sees the wildlings not as monsters, but as people, because he knows what it feels like to be told you don't belong on the right side of a border. The show often focused on the grand battles, but the books spend a lot of time on the internal struggle of being a bastard. In Westeros, bastards are seen as inherently untrustworthy, born of lust and sin. This social stigma creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. They have a drive that someone like Joffrey Baratheon or even Robb Stark never fully possesses. Robb was born to lead. It was his job. Jon Snow had to earn every ounce of respect he ever received through blood, sweat, and a total lack of ego. Let's talk about Tyrion Lannister again, because his journey is perhaps the most intellectual version of the outcast's rise to power. Tywin Lannister represents the old way of doing things, power through fear, name, and gold. Tyrion knows he can never win through physical strength, so he turns his mind into a blade. In the books, Tyrion says that a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone if it is to keep its edge. Because he is an outcast, he spends his time observing people, learning their weaknesses, and understanding the social machinery of King's Landing. While the highborn lords are busy fighting over who sits on the Iron Throne, Tyrion is the one actually keeping the city running, fixing the pipes, and preparing the defenses. The outcasts are the ones who do the dirty work that keeps the world turning. The concept of the broken things is something that the character Bran Stark eventually comes to represent. After his fall, Bran is no longer the knight he dreamed of being. He is an outcast from his own dreams. But as he loses his legs, he gains a perspective that spans through time and space. The show famously ended with Bran the Broken becoming king. The outcasts don't have the same blind spots as the powerful. They know what it's like to be hungry, to be mocked, and to be forgotten. This makes them more empathetic, or at the very least, more practical leaders. We also have to look at Daenerys Targaryen. While she is a queen by birth, she spends almost the entire story as an outcast. She is the beggar queen, sold to a Dothraki warlord, wandering the Red Waste with a handful of followers who have nowhere else to go. Her power doesn't come from the Iron Throne at first. It comes from her ability to gather the other outcasts of the world. She frees the Unsullied, a group of men who were literally turned into objects. She gathers the slaves of Slaver's Bay. Her army is an army of the rejected. This is why she was so successful in the beginning. She spoke the language of the oppressed because she had been oppressed herself. The moment she started acting like a traditional conqueror and a highborn queen is the moment things started to fall apart for her. The theme of the outcast also extends to characters like Brienne of Tarth and Samwell Tarly. Brienne is one of the most skilled fighters in the series, but because she is a woman who doesn't fit the social mold of a lady, she is constantly mocked. She is a knight in every way that matters, yet the world refuses to give her the title. This rejection makes her more loyal and more honorable than any of the true knights like Meryn Trant or Boros Blount. She doesn't fight for glory or land. She fights for the vows she made. Outcasts often hold on to their honor more tightly because it's the only thing they truly own. Samwell Tarly is another perfect example. His father, Randyll Tarly, sent him to the wall because he was soft and preferred books to hunting. But it was Sam's knowledge from those books that discovered the weakness of the White Walkers and the truth about Jon Snow's parentage. The outcasts provide the knowledge and the moral compass that the warriors lack. In the books, there is a character named Aegon Targaryen, often called Young Griff, who might be the real-life version of this outcast ruler philosophy. He is raised in hiding, taught to work with his hands, to fish, and to live among the common people. His mentor tells him that he has been raised to know that kingship is a duty, not a right. This is the core difference. Highborn rulers think they are entitled to power because of their blood. Outcasts know that power is a tool that must be used to protect the people who have nothing. Whether young Griff is a real Targaryen or a Blackfyre pretender doesn't even matter as much as the fact that he was raised as an outcast to be a better ruler. The Bastard's Blade also refers to the literal weapons held by these characters. Consider Longclaw, the Valyrian steel sword given to Jon Snow. It was originally the sword of House Mormont, but it was given to a bastard because he was the one who earned it. The sword itself was changed. The bear pommel was replaced with a wolf. This symbolizes the way outcasts take the old traditions of the world and reshape them into something new. They don't just follow the rules, they rewrite them. Look at the Battle of the Blackwater. Tyrion leads the defense not from a high tower, but by going out through the Sallyport and fighting in the mud. He uses wildfire, a dangerous and unpredictable substance that most honorable lords would find distasteful. He wins because he is willing to do what is necessary, not what is traditional. The social structure of Westeros is built on a very fragile foundation of legitimacy. But as Varys famously says, power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall. Outcasts are the ones who see through the trick. Because they have never been fully accepted by the system, they aren't blinded by its myths. Petyr Baelish, for all his villainy, is a perfect example of an outcast using this knowledge. He came from the Fingers, a tiny, insignificant piece of land. He was mocked by the Tullys and the Starks. He spent his life climbing the ladder of chaos because he knew the lords of Westeros were complacent. He understood that the highborn were so obsessed with their titles that they wouldn't see a lowborn man coming for them until it was too late. Even the Night's King and the White Walkers can be seen as the ultimate outcasts. In the show's lore, they were created from the first men by the children of the forest as a desperate weapon. They were cast out from humanity and turned into something else. They represent the consequences of a world that creates monsters and then tries to forget about them. The dragons were gone, the magic was gone, and the White Walkers were a myth. When the outcasts return, the highborn lords who ignored the warnings are the first to die. We also have to discuss the role of the bastard in the political sense. The War of the Five Kings was sparked by the secret of bastardy. Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen were not Robert Baratheon's children. The entire war was fought over the legitimacy of children born of incest. This shows how much the world of Westeros fears the unnatural or the illegitimate. Yet, the only reason the Lannisters held on to power for so long was through the cleverness of their outcasts. When Tywin was gone, the legitimate rulers like Cersei began to fail because they lacked the perspective of someone who had to fight for their place. Cersei always felt she deserved power, but she never understood how to actually govern the people she looked down upon. The outcasts of Westeros are also the ones who form the most important alliances. The bond between Jon Snow and Samwell Tarly, or Tyrion and Varys, or Arya and Gendry, are the relationships that actually move the plot forward. These bonds are built on mutual respect and shared struggle rather than political marriages. Arya Stark is a great example of an outcast by choice. She rejects the role of a lady and becomes a no one. By losing her identity as a highborn Stark, she gains the skills of a master assassin. She learns from the commoners, the criminals, and the mummers. When she returns to Winterfell, she is more dangerous than any knight because she can be anyone. She has seen the world from the perspective of the prey, which makes her the ultimate predator. If we look at the book's ending versus the show's ending, the theme of the outcast remains central. In the books, the character of Lady Stoneheart, a resurrected, vengeful Catelyn Stark, represents the ultimate rejection of the mother archetype. She becomes an outcast from the living, leading a band of outlaws to hang those who betrayed her. This shows the darker side of the outcast's power. When you take everything from someone and leave them with nothing but their life, they become a force of nature that the law cannot control. The Brotherhood Without Banners is an entire organization of outcasts who decide that if the lords won't protect the people, they will. They follow the Red God, an outcast religion from the East, showing how even faith becomes a weapon for those who have been abandoned by the Seven. One of the most interesting outcasts in the books is Euron Greyjoy. While the show made him a bit of a cartoon pirate, the book version is a terrifying sorcerer who was exiled from the Iron Islands for years. He traveled to Valyria, to Asshai, and to places where men fear to go. He returned with a horn that can allegedly control dragons and armor made of Valyrian steel. Euron is what happens when an outcast embraces the darkness and the forbidden knowledge of the world. He doesn't want to just sit on a throne, he wants to be a god. He represents the ultimate threat to the established order because he has no respect for its rules or its gods. The reason the outcasts rule is because they are adaptable. The highborn lords are like the old trees in a storm. They are rigid, and so they snap. The outcasts are like the weeds. They are flexible. They have deep roots in the mud, and they can survive anything. When the dust settles, it's always the survivors who write the history. And in this story, the survivors are the ones who knew how to hide, how to fight dirty, and how to value knowledge over pride. Think about the character of Davos Seaworth, the Onion Knight. He was a smuggler from Flea Bottom, the poorest slum in King's Landing. He became a knight because he brought onions to a starving Stannis Baratheon. Even though he became a lord and a hand of the king, he never forgot who he was. He kept his finger bones in a pouch around his neck as a reminder of the price he paid for his past. Davos is the moral heart of the series for many fans because he speaks truth to power. He is an outcast who climbed the ladder but didn't lose his soul in the process. He represents the potential for a better Westeros, a meritocracy where your value is based on your actions, not your birth. The Bastard's Blade is also a metaphor for the audience's perspective. We are drawn to these characters because we all feel like outcasts at some point. We relate to Tyrion's struggle to be seen, Jon's struggle to find his place, and Arya's struggle to be herself. The brilliance of George R.R. Martin's writing is that he takes these marginalized characters and makes them the most important people in the universe. He tells us that it doesn't matter if you were born in a palace or a brothel. What matters is what you do with the time you have and the mind you were given. The show's decision to have Bran, a literal sellsword and outcast, become the Master of Coin and Lord of Highgarden was seen by some as a joke. But it fits this theme perfectly. Bran is a man who understands the value of a gold dragon and a sharp blade better than any Tyrell ever did. He is a survivor. In the new world built after the fires of Daenerys and the ice of the Night King, the people left standing are the ones who were too tough or too smart to die. They are the sellswords, the bastards, and the broken things. If we analyze the Grand Northern Conspiracy from the books, it's all about the outcasts of the North working together to restore the Starks. It's not just the big lords like the Manderleys. It's the mountain clans, the survivors of the Red Wedding, and even the people hidden in the Neck. They are using the outcast tactics of guerrilla warfare and secrecy to undermine the Boltons. The Boltons themselves are a house of outcasts who rose to power through betrayal, Roose Bolton is cold and calculated, but his bastard son Ramsay is the embodiment of the rejected child turned into a monster. Ramsay's cruelty is his way of trying to force the world to acknowledge him. It's the dark mirror to Jon Snow's journey. Both are bastards. Both want their father's approval. But one chooses to build, and the other chooses to destroy. The final irony of the story is that the rightful heirs to the throne are almost all dead by the end. The people who were supposed to rule are gone. This leaves the world in the hands of the people who actually know how to survive it. The council that picks the new king in the finale is a collection of the survivors. You have a dwarf, a smuggler, a man from the Night's Watch, and a woman from Tarth. It is a government of outcasts. This is the breaking of the wheel that Daenerys talked about. Though it didn't happen the way she expected, the wheel wasn't broken by a dragon. It was broken by the fact that the old system ran out of legitimate people to keep it spinning. When you rewatch the show or reread the books, pay attention to the scenes where characters are eating. The highborn lords eat in great halls with fine wines and music. The outcasts eat around campfires, sharing stories and learning from each other. These campfires are where the real plans are made. It's where Jon and Tormund decide the fate of the free folk. It's where Tyrion and Podrick bond before the battle. It's where Arya and the Hound develop their strange, brutal relationship. These are the moments that define the future of Westeros. The Grand Halls are just places where people go to die or be betrayed. The Outcasts also have a different relationship with the supernatural. While the Lords of the South laugh at the idea of giants and snarks, the outcasts who live on the edges of the world know the truth. They are the ones who have to deal with the reality of the shadows. This makes them the only ones capable of saving the world. If it weren't for a group of outcasts at the Wall, the White Walkers would have swept over Westeros before anyone even realized they were real. The world is saved by the people it tries to ignore. This is why the Bastard's Blade is the most powerful weapon in the story. It is forged in the fires of rejection and tempered in the cold of the world's indifference. It doesn't care about titles or heraldry. It only cares about results. Whether it's Jon Snow leading an army, Tyrion managing a kingdom, or Arya striking from the shadows, the outcasts are the ones who ultimately decide the fate of the Seven Kingdoms. They rule not because it is their right, but because they are the only ones left with the strength, the wit, and the scars to do so. In the end, the story of Westeros is a lesson in perspective. It teaches us that the people we dismiss, the ones we label as bastards, cripples, or broken, are often the ones holding the key to our survival. They are the ones who see the world as it truly is, not as the poets and maesters say it should be, and in a world as harsh and unforgiving as the one George R.R. Martin created. That realism is the only thing that matters. The outcasts don't just rule Westeros. They are Westeros. They are the blood in its veins and the steel in its hand. As we wait for the final books, we can only imagine how this theme will conclude. Will Jon Snow finally accept his place as a king? Or will he remain an outcast in the true North? Will Tyrion find a way to reconcile his Lannister name with his outcast soul? The answers lie in the journey of those who were never meant to win. Because in the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. But if you're an outcast, you've already died 1,000 times, and that's what makes you impossible to beat. The outcasts provide the ultimate subversion of the fantasy genre. In traditional stories, the Hidden Prince returns to claim his throne, and everything is fixed. In this story, the Hidden Prince Jon Snow is a man who would rather be a brother of the Night's Watch than a king. He values the community of outcasts more than the power of the throne. This shift in values is what makes the story so modern and so resonant. It tells us that the structures of the past are crumbling, and the future belongs to those who can build something new from the wreckage. So, next time you think about the great houses of Westeros, the Starks, the Lannisters, the Targaryens, remember that their names only have power because of the outcasts who support them. Without the Onion Knights and the Halfmen and the Bastards of Winterfell, these houses would have fallen long ago. The true history of the realm is written in the shadows, by the people who were never invited to the feast, but were the only ones who knew how to cook the meal. The outcasts don't just have a seat at the table, they own the table, and that is why they rule. Westeros belongs to the broken and the forgotten. But I want to know who you think is the ultimate outcast. Was it Jon's leadership? Tyrion's wit or Arya's grit that truly changed the game? Drop your pick in the comments. I'll be down there responding to the best theories. If this deep dive gave you a new perspective on the lore, hit the like button and subscribe to join the inner circle. It's the best way to support the channel and ensure you don't miss our next breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the conversation below.